Outer Orange.
Hi. We're gonna be doing some tier listings today, but I basically took this person's Nathaniel's list and I kind of add a couple more decks to it. And this isn't really the best way I want to do this tier list, but it's probably gonna be the easiest way for speed. I kind of wanted like something kind of instant I can refer to, so this was the best thing I had. I added some decks to it. So I added the Hunter, like the new Hunter girl. I added Wilbert. I added Amataz. I added Jinjetsu, I believe. I added the 3 trial decks, and I added Huan to this. I think that's everything in terms of like newer stuff that for our meta. So for those that are going to be playing, we are about to hit like competitive season, and Duluth is going to have Shadowverse with the new Cute, Cool, and Passion decks. So I'm not going to lie, I don't have 100% of the meta figured out. So this is set 6 and Idolmaster in 1. So this is going to be kind of that kind of meta. Tier 1 is probably the strongest deck in the format, what people deem to be the strongest deck in the format. I feel like in this meta, we kind of know what that is because there's so many decks that are trying to play around it or play into it and win. And we saw that even happen in Sacramento as well. We're going to start with Alice. I'm going to put Alice and the Haven Egg deck in like tier 2. I think this deck's actually insanely strong. It just has a big bricking issue and it loses to decks. It loses pretty hard if it doesn't open well. It's probably my best deck that I'm on personally. I really value this deck and I'm not going to put it in tier 1. So I do think it's a very strong tier 2 deck. And I definitely think that it's definitely a deck to fear. It does have some matchups it loses to, and it's actually because Idolmaster got introduced, there's actually one deck in particular that I think this deck struggles into. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on down the line. But overall, Egg is just a very explosive deck. It can close out on turn 6 very quickly, actually. If it opens well, it's very hard to play into. If you build it a certain way, Kuan can't really beat it, depending on how you play into it. We got Beauty and the Beast. I haven't tested this stuff. I'm assuming it's like somewhere in the I don't know tier, maybe tier 3. I've played it once in set 3. It's obviously been well past set 3. I don't know what this is. Someone could tell me in a little bit what this is. I'm assuming at some point there was a Dark Alice deck, so we're probably going to put it down there. Omen, if you're going pure Omen, I think it's not that great, but if you're going like a mix of like a range, Jabberwock, what is this? It's a meme. It's a meme, we'll put it in tier 4. Omen, I think depending on how you build it, Discard Abyss is Alice. Is this Discard Abyss? If it's Discard Abyss, then we're going to put it tier 2. Let's move the Omen for a sec. Discard Abyss is actually very powerful. You get a card called Whispers of a Dream this upcoming set. That card's pretty insane. On top of that, you also gain access to Ranko, and Ranko is pretty good too. On play, basically deal something too. And then on top of that, she has a really good evolve where she looks at top 4 and throws 1 card into the X zone and then discards the rest, which is very powerful because it basically it bumps up your energy, your Necrotrash really fast. And also the fact that you can pick anything from there, put in the EX zone, and use it really well. There's kind of 2 different ways. Long story short, I do still think this is a strong tier 2. This deck's pretty good. It actually, if you open like the full curve, and depending on how you build it, I'm more of like a Death Breath enjoyer. I play this deck with like Death Breath and Izzerfills. I kind of go down that path where like by the time I hit turn 6 and on, I'm going to have big buys on the board at all times. It's either going to be Jinjetsu, it's going to be Izzerfill, it's going to... So I run Bahamut too in my list, so basically early on I just control the board, and late game I just sit there as a big wall that you can't get through, and you'll eventually die because of it. So I like that build personally, but you can also go like a different type of style, and that will work as well. You can also run the Sanguine card, the 3-drop that you drop it down. If you get 5 more mana, you blow up the board. That card's also really nuts. There's kind of like a couple different ways you can add to make the deck better. Its weaknesses is early rush, and unfortunately we do have some really strong early rush decks. Here's a good example right here. A card like this deck does not care at all about what Abyss is doing. It only cares if Abyss gets to a late game, like I'm talking like 9-10 mana. But before that, this deck just doesn't care. You have all these Jinjetsus, cool, I'm gonna burn you for 10. So that's why I think this is like stronger than this, but this is also still good. Both these decks really lose to like super strong early aggression, funnily enough. I think Sword is also a very, very strong tier 2. Probably up here, pretty close to it's probably like this, to be honest with you. I think this deck's a little bit stronger. This is the mill version, but realistically speaking, I think all the Sword versions are good. Rather you go Thief Sword, Aggro Sword, Mid-range Sword, whatever like your cup of tea is. They're all just really good versions of Sword right now. It's really, if you don't kill the board early enough, you just die. I will say Sword is it dies to board control. So if you're placing decks that are constantly nuking your board, this deck starts falling off. But they do have the insane early high roll game to just kind of sweep you away before you have a chance to really, get there. Or if you like brick into them, that's another thing that will kind of will kill you basically. If you brick, you're not doing something, they have the advantage there. So Pyro, I think. So honestly, by results, like by purely results, Dragon is really strong right now based on what we're seeing. Like if you just ignore results, you can probably keep in tier 2. It almost feels like a tier 1 deck because of results alone. Results may push this to a tier 1. I think it's like 1.5. I think this deck's like right in between tier 1 and tier 2 right now. Definitely a strong deck. It still runs the engine of Forte. Forte is just insane, along with the drawing and everything else that this deck's capable of, the burning. It has a lot of good stuff, and it's been performing really well actually. So definitely a good strong tier 2. It's also a very popular pick. Like people just really like Dragon, so I can see this being like probably one of the stronger decks on the list currently. We have, this is probably more of the control deck. This is like Control Abyss. This is Discard Abyss, this is the Control Abyss. These are kind of similar. It just depends on like build, like what you're building. I think these are both just basically the same deck, just different variations of each other. Probably both like strong in their own little ways. I'm not going to explain this because this is basically the same thing that this was explaining. This is just more control and this is kind of more discard heavy. Either or works really well. So Marwyn, I think Marwyn's tier 3 right now. Might even be pushing to tier 4. I actually tested Aegis with the new Idolm Master cards. So there's a new 5-drop that came out. On play, you get to banish a 4 OS defense. Very good. She also has a second effect. If you are 5 defense or less, you get to add 5 health, and you also get to draw a card. And that is and she has ward on her too. A very strong Idolm Master card. Very, very good in Aegis. There's a new banish amulet too. You just play her and banish something, and she has also another effect where you can remove the amulet for 5 and then banish anything on the board. It's very strong. I think this deck still has an issue that it wants to play for the late game, and we have too many decks that kind of keep it away from the late game. Ganyu, Alice, Sword, like all these decks up here I think just play better. I will say Kuan kind of struggles into Marwyn a little bit because you can't, kill Aegis. But also Marwyn is so slow that Kuan has time to set up, and Kuan could just kill it before Marwyn can do anything. But once you drop Aegis, you drop Aegis. So Marwyn's kind of in a weird spot right now. The cards are good, it's just the meta isn't good for him right now. Also, Abyss has a card that directly nukes the Aegis, and that kind of hurts too. Into Abyss, I feel this deck will struggle. We have Masquerade, I don't know. We have the hero version. I'm not too sure if Pure, I assume Pure is not that well. Fallen Angel, I've tested it. It's very slow. It's not bad, but it's not the team. I think Chess is kind of entering the same realm. Pure Roach, I don't think is a thing right now. Forte, this is just a regular, this is a Ramp Dragon. Ramp Dragon is probably pure Ramp Dragon is probably more on like a tier 3. Diana, probably tier 3. I just realized we have Alice and we also have the egg. That's unfortunate. I guess we'll move the egg and remove the Alice. We'll do it like that because egg is definitely the deck I was talking about. Masquerade. This isn't Masquerade. What are these? What are these cards? Isn't this also Masquerade? Are these both Masquerade? Am I going crazy? I'm gonna put this down here. What is this? Is this Dirt Rune? That has to be Dirt Rune. I'm gonna go to Dimension Shift first. Actually, we're gonna play Dimension Shift here. I think this is probably the Actually, this could be Spell Rune. Spell Rune is probably tier 4. I think pure Spell Rune. We're not talking about Kuan in the deck. We're talking about pure Spell Rune. Dirt Rune probably tier 3 maybe. So Spell Rune is just pure spells. It's just a little lackluster. Spiana Pure is probably a little bit higher. It's probably more like I'm not sure right now how it's doing, or Earthright or whatever this is. Basically, I'm gonna put it here because I don't know, unless you guys have a different answer. Daria is probably here as well. Hunter is tier 2 in my opinion. Both Hunters. This is the Burn Hunter. Probably even like a little higher. Maybe like right there. Hunter's pretty good, pretty strong. I just think oh right, Chimera Burn. I forgot. That's what this is. Yeah, definitely tier 4. This deck's kind of in the water somewhere right now. Yeah, the Hunter build is pretty good. It's very annoying, very consistent. Pure Lashena is probably tier 3 if you're just playing for Lashena and Idols. PDK is probably tier 3 unless you're mixing it with like other cards, like kind of like this or this. What is this? Is this this is Discard Dragon, right? I think Discard Dragon is also like entering tier 3 territory, right? It's more like a meme. Uma is probably tier 3 as well. Sanguine is weird. I don't think it's that strong. I will say the Idol Master cards make this deck actually not bad. The Master cards are good. There is a Storm card, another Storm card that has similar effects to her. There is like a Spell card. There's actually quite a few different cards. I think PDK is like tier 3-ish. Might be a little bit higher. Maybe it's like high tier 3. Uma's probably high tier 3 too. I think Sanguine is like tier 2.5. it's not bad. It's like it's not as bad as like maybe like some of this stuff down here, but it's not like as strong as like, you know, dragon or like sword, like you know, Agros or whatever the sword is. But let's talk about Kuon. Kuon is definitely the top dog. Now the thing about Kuon is like it hasn't been winning events, so it's kind of hard to say like, oh, it's tier 1. But the thing is like a lot of people are also playing into the meta. Like they're aware that Kuon is strong, so they're playing more aggressive decks to deal with Kuon, right? While also still being able to play into other decks. I feel like if Kuon just didn't exist, like if we just took out of the format, some of these decks would be moving around. Because then people probably wouldn't be playing so aggressively with like Sword, maybe, or Hunter, maybe, or even Egg, or even Ganyu. I feel like people would be playing other stuff more. Like if this deck just didn't exist. But I feel like because this deck exists, people are aware that they're on a clock, and they know they have to play a deck that can play fast enough to deal with Kuon, or heal fast enough to where they can play around Kuon. I feel like people that are building right now are aware of Kuon. And because they're aware of Kuon, they're building a certain way. And that's why I think this has to stay in tier 1. I will say this deck has like an auto win button at some point. And I think that's just very powerful. I think it plays into a lot of matchups really well. It does have a little bit of an issue of early rush, and it has like a small bricking issue where if it doesn't see enough normal units, it kind of starts struggling. But overall, this deck is pretty consistent and strong. I think it deserves its spot, so we'll put it up there. We have the other Hunter version. But the new Hunter was like the more recent one on the top didn't have her, but I think they're kind of similar. Not exact. This one's more like Burn Hunter, like pure Burn, and this one's more like consistent dudes on board all the time Hunter. But they're kind of similar, so we'll put them both kind of in the same spot. I have Wilberts. This is Storm Ward Haven. I think this is like a tier 3. This deck is like really strong if you don't clear its board. If you don't clear the board, like this deck gets insane. It burns, creates board out of nowhere. Oh, this is Amataz. Amataz is definitely like tier 2-ish. It's a weird tier 2 because it feels strong, but it hasn't really been performing too well on our side. It's been doing okay. I think it's above Kuon affecting the meta, especially Thief Sword. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Welcome in, Paladin, on the YouTube side. Amataz, I think, is somewhere here. It's still a powerful deck. It's just pretty. And some people run like a mix where they run Hunter and they run the Fairy package, so they kind of want to mix of both. I think it's a good tier 2. We have Jinjetsu. This was basically I didn't realize there was a discard Alice and this. The Jinjetsu is basically these two combined. So we'll put her up here. Pure Yokai. We'll just call us Pure Yokai. Pure Yokai is definitely like somewhere down here. Pure Yokai just isn't very strong. Her pieces are good, but as a deck on its own, it's not very good, which is unfortunate because the cards that are currently present are actually really good. We just need a little bit more. I just realized there isn't like a Forest Elephant deck on the list. I guess this would be the Forest Elephant deck. I'm gonna put this at a high tier 3, touching tier 2. The reason why is because Anastasia is out, and that card's very strong with this deck. This is the just pure forest with elephant and stuff. I think this is like pretty powerful. And still needs to see the right cards. It has a new 1-drop too that came out as well this set. It's a really good 1-drop. So long story short, like you'd be surprised. The combo can be very insane. You drop the 5-drop into, she recovers you 2 play points. You drop 2 1-drops, and then suddenly you have a whole board, and they all have like +1/+1 on them, or +2/+1, whatever it is that Anastasia gives, and then like suddenly the board's lethal. It can get very scary very fast. You just need to draw correctly, but I think this deck's actually kind of cooking. Okay, so let's talk about the new stuff. So this is like the stuff that we just got. We have Cool, Cutes, and Passion. Cool, I would rank. So think about Cool. Sorry, I use the trial deck. The trial deck features. Powerful, but it's very reliant on your opponent not knowing how to play into it, and your opponent just not nuking your board. If you nuke the board, this deck is like easily tier 3. However, if you don't nuke the board, this deck is easily tier 2. So it's kind of like weird. It also answers Alice pretty well, like Egg Alice. It's pretty scary. Overall, it depends. If Alice can clear fast enough, like Alice wins. But Cool, if you give them a turn of like a full board, you'll basically lose. And you just never want to don't let them get a full board. If they get a full board, you better be clearing it like as fast as possible, because this deck does nothing if they have no board. This deck's super cheap to build, relatively easy to play, I would say. I just think it's a little too board reliant. Cute, I think, also falls into this category. I think Cute almost auto loses to Kuon, which is a very not good. But Cute has an insane matchup into Cool, has an insane matchup into Egg, has a decent matchup into Ganyu, has a good matchup into Fairies. Like it has a lot of good matchups overall, like in here. And it does lose to this though. There's like no world where you beat this deck. I'm gonna be honest with you, because this deck is too slow. This is a turtle deck. You just sit there, draw cards, bullet board, draw cards, bullet board, draw cards, bullet board, eventually do something and maybe kill. It doesn't really have a powerful kill turn, but it's turtles like crazy. Now Passion is the only one I don't know much about. I know it's like a middle top deck kind of deck where you rest a bunch of dudes to like recall cards from your cemetery. You have like the 8-drop that has like 7/7 Storm on it. There's like something going on. I don't know where this deck belongs. I assume it's like tier 2, tier 3, but I haven't played it yet. It's on my list of playing. That's basically it. This is what I think is sort of what the meta is looking like. I might do something like this just because Egg does lose. We're missing a deck. We're missing Ector. Well, it didn't screw anything up. Ector's tier 3. There, that's all I need to do. This is the Necrocharge Abyss deck. Basically, you're milling your entire deck until you win. I think this is like tier 3 somewhere. Necrocharge can be very scary. It's a little bricky, but it's scary bricky. I tested a little bit recently. Not too much. I'm not done testing it. I have a couple more builds I want to try, but it felt a little bricky. Yeah, it's the best tier. It's the best tier. It's the greatest tier ever. Basically, we're in a meta where you gotta be mindful of Kuon and aggro decks, because aggro decks are trying to be Kuon, and Kuon is just naturally a good deck, right? It just has it has a lot of good cards in it. It's just an overall good deck. I would say somewhere in the splash of things, be mindful of Dragon as well, because a lot of people are gonna be on Dragon. A little bit of Abyss here and there, and then you should probably know what Idol Master does. You should probably just know what the cards are doing. I've been studying the cards a lot recently. It did do really well in Japan. It got second. I believe they lost to Kuon. I believe it was cool they got second. And there was actually a lot of results during the period of the time, and then it completely fell off after set 7 dropped for whatever reason. I think part of it was just like the hype and stuff like that. Like I said, they're not bad. I think the pieces from the decks are better in other decks than the decks on their own. That's just how I see it. That's how I visualize it. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. We got some more Shadowverse content coming. I still need to finish up some Vanguard content that I was creating for y'all, so I'll be doing that. And thank you for sticking around. Hope it was fun. Hope it was enjoyable. All that kind of fun stuff. Till next time.